Willkommen, bienvenue, and welcome back to the modding of Isaac with Lyte. Today, we're going to cover 2 of the now 4 C's, curses and challenges. Next time, we'll do the characters. Previously, we did costumes. So many C's in this game. But let's just get right to it. So we're not going into the Lorem Ipsum mod this time. We're going straight into a new Vow of Poverty mod, because I would like to make a complete challenge, and I've got a bit of an idea for how it's going to work. And if we come into challenges, you don't see it in this list, because this is not where it belongs. It belongs when you hit tab, it comes into your custom challenges. And then it lists all the custom challenges that have been made. Open it up, starts a new challenge. You can set how deep it goes. You can set whether or not it's hard mode or normal. And then, if you noticed, we have Curse of the Monk. What? Curse of the Monk? What kind of weird curse is that? Well, if we spawn some sort of coin, hey look, it's a penny. Ow, it's a penny. It deals half a heart of damage. If we pick up a nickel, ow, it dealt a full heart of damage. Now, if we spawn a sticky nickel, I added my exploding nickels mod, so it explodes into coins, all of which will deal damage to me. And then, if perchance I were to pick up this dime, dead. So that's Curse of the Monk, and we've got ourselves a custom challenge. Now let's look into, well, how does that work? So I've made myself a shiny new mod here, Vow of Poverty. I trust you've watched enough of my videos to know how to make a mod. We have no resources folder this time. We have no graphical or sonic resources to deal with, so there is no resources folder. Most of the heavy lifting is done in main.lua, but actually adding things is in content. You've seen this enough times that whenever you want to add something, you go into your content folder and you add an XML file. That's just how this goes. So the first thing we're going to add is the curse. Very simple to add a curse. Curses.xml. You've got an opening tag with the gators, curses, and you always close it. Curses. And then inside you list each individual curse. We've got a curse, and we've got a name. And we're done. So curses between gators, close the curses at the end. You open up the curse. You give it name equals Curse of the Monk, or Curse of the Spider, Curse of the... whatever you want your curse to be. Curse of Flatulence. You start farting all the time. Whatever you want your curse to be, you just give it a name. It's good to go. And you close it with a slash at the end. That's all there is. Basic XML like we've done several times before. And that's all there is. You've added your curse to the list. Now, working with said curse is a whole other matter. We'll come back to making the curse work after we show you how to actually add a challenge, because that might be all you really need. So back in this content folder, there's challenges.xml. If you need a reference for what should go in them, all you need to do is go to the resources folder, and they already exist. You've got curses, et voila. And you've got challenges. Et voila. So I personally leave all of these comments up top, because this tells you exactly how all of the parts work. This is how you make your challenge do what it is that you want it to do. And it goes through everything. How much health do you want them to have? How much damage could they get to? How much fire rate, shot speed, range? All of that you can set up here. Where do they end? Which rooms can they have or not? All very useful things. And then, as always, you open the gator, challenges, because that's what we're listing. Here we need version 1, not really certain why, but leave it there. And then we close the challenges. We didn't need the version for the curses. Again, don't know why, but leave it how it is. Then when you open the challenge, there are a lot more things you can add. You need 100% need the name, because that's how you reference it. No ID numbers for the curses or the challenges. Again, anytime you add something in content, you're adding it on top of every other mod that's installed. You don't want to conflict with other people's mods. Causes trouble. Don't want trouble. Then you desperately need an end stage. You need to know where the run ends. Does it end at Mom? Does it end at Isaac? Does it end at Satan? You need to choose which way to go. Alt path is optional. It defaults to the light path. If you hit false, it goes dark. But it's only necessary if you get past Mom's heart. The room filter is right up here. You list off, I believe it's separated by spaces. It might be separated by commas, but you list off all of the different rooms that you cannot actually use, like you cannot get. I put in arcades because arcades, when you got no coins or coins hurt you, it's just worthless. You just leave that out. And then difficulty, if it's 1, it's hard. There are tons of other things in here to experiment with. Just go through, see what you want your challenge to do. But the special part of challenges isn't really here. This isn't where you get the fun part. The fun part's in the code where you make it do to the player what you want it to do. It's where you make it super fast. It's where you make it ultra hardcore. It's whatever it is you want. You do that in the code. Here you just make it exist and give it a couple of basic identity sorts of things. Most prominently, where it ends and which rooms they get. So that's it for the XML files. I'm not going to type them out. You don't need me to type these. We've done XML enough that you know the basics of how it works. You have spaces between the things. Thing equals stuff in quotes. You close it here. You close it here. Good to go. Go back in your mod. You need a main.lua because you almost always need a main.lua. I've started something slightly different with this mod that I think I'm going to continue with, is giving each mod the same variable. This way, when you copy code from one into another, you don't have to modify anything. So if you always use the same local mod equals register mod, then you can write a halfway decent mod and then be like, ooh, I would really love to have that in my challenge. Well, it's already in this other mod. It's kind of frustrating to move. Well, if you wrote it like this, you can just copy and paste the code from Exploding Nickels, and the callback is still good. Still good. And they don't have to install both of your mods. So this is new. I'm going to try to stick to that because I think it'll come in really handy. We're going to go through the code little by little. We're not going to type it all out. It takes too long to type it all out. So we're going to work through it. It's got the curses and the challenges interleaved here. I'm going to talk about them because they're somewhat inseparable in this challenge. So when you work with curses, it's a bitmap. So we're going to have to talk a little bit about binary numbers here. Each curse gets its own bit. So when you're counting in bits, let's say you've got a 4-bit number. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 15's as high as you can count with 4 bits. And you'll notice there are only a couple that only have a single bit active. So we've got this one here, this one here, this one here, and then where's 8? Here's 8. So you'll notice this is 0, 1, 2, 4, 8. They're the only ones with a single bit active. When I say a bit mask, every one of these numbers can represent a combination of those 4 things. So if you want the first thing and the second thing, you just use 3. If you want the first thing and the third thing, you use 5. Do you follow? First thing, third thing is 5 because it's 1 and 4 is 5. If you want the second thing and the fourth thing, well, that's 10. 8 and 2 is 10. And this is how it works with curses. The first curse, let me double check the order of curses just to be absolutely certain. If you want to know the actual numbers, you can go into the enumerations and then level curse. And it actually goes in that order. So curse none is just 0. So none. Curse 1 is darkness. Curse 2 is the labyrinth. Curse 4 is the lost. Curse 8 is unknown. But you can have combinations of these curses. So if you want dark and labyrinth, you use 3. Lost and unknown, you come all the way down here to 12. And this is your bit mask. And when you add a new curse, it goes all the way at the end. But then the counting works out a little weird, so we have to do a little bit of extra math. So if you look at this right here, we have the number 1 shifted to the left by a certain number of bits. And the number of bits is our curse number minus 1. So we get our curse ID by name. It'll give you a number like 9. Well, the 9th bit is 8 bits to the left of the first bit. So you take 1, shift it over by the number of your curse minus 1. You could also theoretically take 2 to the power of, let's see, if we want to get back to 1, we take it back by, it's a pain to do 2 to the power of whatever. That's why we use the bit shifts. So we start with this, and then we shift it over. If we shift it by 1, we get curse number 2. And then the next one, and the next one. So shift by 1, shift by 2, shift by 3. Are you following that? We're taking a single bit, and we're shifting it over to represent each successive curse, such that with a single integer, we can show any combination of said curses, just in case we want Curse of the Monk and Curse of the Unknown. And the subtract by 1 is because we start in the first position instead of somehow some negative first position, which just doesn't work. If you're curious, if you take the number 3 and shift it by 1, you get this number right here, which is number 6. So you take 3, shift by 1 is 6, because when you shift by a bit, you multiply by 2. And if you shift to the right, you can actually shift to the right like that. You divide it by 2, but you also truncate it. It's a ridiculous bit of nonsense. But this also means you can only have a certain number of curses. Once you get past 32 curses, it's going to break down. Hopefully we never need 32 curses, but if it ever gets to that point, that could be a problem. So that's what this part is doing. It's getting our bit mask for our curse, such that we can use it later. This is useful when giving the curse and checking for if you have the curse. So we do this right away, so we never have to do it again. Challenges, so much easier. They just get an ID number and you use it. Done. One challenge at a time, no nonsense. So every time I do this, I like to have little tables in case I have more than one curse, in case I have more than one challenge per mod. We put it in a table. We follow their style of putting the type of thing and then the name using snake case, and we capitalize it because it's constant, never going to change. So we got curse, super complicated and weird, but fine if you can copy and paste and understand that it's a bit mask and you're shifting a bit around. Challenges, super easy, just number, done. I'm going to skip this one for now because it's way more interesting to look at the post-curse evaluation. Ignore the code below, that's just exploding nickels. So there's a new callback that wasn't originally available to us. MC post curse eval. So we've got our mod, we add our callback, mod callbacks. I'll say this every time because we need to know it. Callback is one word. It's singular when you add one, plural when you're checking the type. So mod callbacks.mc post curse eval. So after the game has evaluated the curses that it wants to give the player, you call this function. Again, we're doing event listeners because that's just how I think. So I added it onto curses here because it might as well. On eval, it gives you the current curse flags. So the bit mask for the current curses. So if you have Curse of Darkness, it'll give you a 1, Labyrinth 2, Lost 4, Unknown 8. Some combination, it'll give you an integer that represents the combination. Then I check if we're currently if the current challenge, remember we defined game up here, if game.challenge is our challenge, then give them Curse of the Monk. Otherwise, just keep it the same. This return, we haven't used that much, if at all. What it does is it hands something back. So this callback hands us curse flags, and then we hand something back, which is basically us saying, oh, you gave us these curse flags. Well, we either agree or we slightly disagree and give them a modified version. So if you want to get rid of all curses forever, well, black candle. So what you would end up doing is return curse none. So level curse none would make it such that you never get any curses at all. What we're doing here is taking the curse flags we were given and doing a bitwise OR with our curse, because they might have picked our curse to begin with. So I need to show you how bitwise ORs work. So if you start with the number 1, and then you want to OR, say, the number 4, that will give you the number 5. Because if a bit is on, it stays on. Now, here, it's the same, well, let's put it like that, which is the same as going 1, 2, 3, 1 plus 0, 1, 0, 0. It's the same thing. However, if we have 1 and say 5, that one also gives you 5, which is not the same as taking this plus that, because that is 6. 5 plus 1 is 6, but 5 or 1 is 5. So since these are both on, they both stay on. This one was on and this one was off, but if it's on, it's on. So that's a bitwise OR. If a bit is on, it stays on. Let's do one more example just to make sure you've got it. So what do we do here? They're all on. Every bit is on in one or the other. So in the result, it comes together. So that's bitwise OR. Anytime you have an OR, you also have an AND. We'll need that in a second. So might as well go over it now. 1 and 4 equals 0. They have no bits in common. 1 and 5 equals 1. They have 1 bit in common. Then we take, what is that? 12 and, let's see, that's 7 equals, 12 and 7 equals 4. Because it only has 1 single bit in common with what you're ANDing. You'll see why this is useful in a moment, but I just want to cover bitwise ORs and bitwise ANDs, because they do come in handy, not just for these bit masks, but for other things too. But here we've got curse flags or our curse. So if for some reason we already had our curse and we OR it with our curse, we keep our curse, but don't get anything weird. And that's what this does. If we've got the poverty challenge, we always want Curse of the Monk. Every single floor, every single time. I'm probably going to have to make it such that it takes Black Candle out of the pool, too. Because that would kind of defeat the purpose. So that's post-curse eval. After they give you their curses, you say, maybe you should do something else about that. Okay, and then for the challenge, I suppose this probably should have been challenges.onUpdate, but whatever you attach it to, it's updating and checking what's going on. Oh yeah, this is for the curse, because this is how the curse actually works. So you need to get the level, because the level knows what curses you have. So level equals game, get level. Oops. And now that we have the level get curses and. So this is a bitwise and. Your curses.curse of the monk is greater than 0. So what it's saying is that these two things, the curse bitmap, bitmask, and your curse share at least 1 bit. Well, Curse of the Monk only has 1 bit to share. So what you're checking is, does the current curse indication include Curse of the Monk? If it does, it'll be Curse of the Monk. Otherwise, it'll be 0. Now you could, instead of having greater than 0, have it be equals Curse of the Monk. This is a perfectly good way of checking this as well. Because this has a single bit, and if this has that bit, it'll come back as that bit. But when you've got more complicated flags, you just want to make sure there's... In this case, I just care about some overlap. Potentially, you might want this to make sure the one on the left has exactly the one on the right. It all depends on what you're really looking for. In this case, both work. Okay, then the number of coins the player has, you get how many coins they have. If they have more than 1, well, more than 0, they've got coins. They shouldn't have coins. So you get rid of their current number of coins. Poof, you're back down to 0. And then you calculate how much damage they take from the coins. So math.floor takes anything that isn't a whole number and rounds it down. 1.5 becomes 1, 1.9 becomes 1, 22.999999999. I don't remember what number I started with, 22? It rounds it down. No matter how close to the next number you are, it rounds it down. So we take coins, divide by 5. So 1, 2, 3, and 4 coins gets rounded down to 0. And then you get a +1 such that they take some damage. 1 damage for coins 1, 2, 3, and 4. Once you get 5 coins all at once, you take a second damage. Hence the nickel dealing a whole heart. And the dime dealing a heart and a half. And you keep adding that up. So if somehow they instantaneously get tons of coins, they take tons of damage. And then we say, player, take damage, with the colon, take damage. How much? The coin damage. Then, next up is a damage flag, where you indicate the type of damage. Because if you want them to be able to nullify it with Pyromaniac, you make it explosive damage. Or you could make it acid damage or spike damage. So if you want them to be able to get the callus and be immune to it, you can make it spike damage. Okay? Then you put a reference to who's causing the damage. So if this kills them, that's what goes in their death portrait. And then this last one is the damage cooldown, such that they can't just keep taking damage, taking damage, taking damage. But I want them to keep taking damage, taking damage, taking damage. So I put in a 0. I haven't tested exactly how the cooldown works, but that's what this number is for. And that's all there is. We use the XMLs to add them. Here's how you set it up in your code such that you know what to do with them. Whenever working with curses, you need bitwise ands and bitwise ors. And then working with the challenge, you just check the game's challenge and see whether it's equal to your current challenge. Mod callbacks, you evaluate the curse on curse eval. Working with anything else, I tend to use post p effect update when I need the player. If you don't need the player, then you can use regular post update or post render. But certain things happen at certain times during a frame, and there might be some weird interactions. And if you can get the player from the game without having to use Isaac get player 0, it's probably for the best. But that's all I've got for this episode. I will see you in the next episode of the Modding of Isaac with Lyte.